to another episode of Beer for Breakfast ABV. I am Danielle from the morning show on 91X. As always, I have my beer drinking partner in crime with me, Paul Segura, brewmaster of Karl Strauss.
Cheers.
Hi.
The lone guest on the show this week. It's kind of weird.
It's kind of cool, actually. We are focusing solely on Karl Strauss beer this week on Beer for Breakfast ABV. Obviously, it was super easy because my partner is the brewmaster of Karl Strauss, and I couldn't think of a better person to talk to about Karl Strauss. So I'm going to take it away. What are we starting with?
Well, I am psyched. We just put one of our collaborations into cans this week, literally just a couple days ago. It is a collaboration that we did with 4 Point Brewing Company in San Francisco. And because of San Francisco, it's appropriately named Breakfast ABV. And there's kind of a funny story to go along with it, if I can bore everybody.
Please.
I went up to San Francisco to see our local Ocean Beach Grateful Dead tribute band, Electric Waste Band. They play every Monday night at Winston's, and they have for like 28 years. They're all bros of mine. They're friends of mine. I went up to see them play in San Francisco at a place called Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley, owned by Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead. And I was on my way to go to the venue when I smelled beer brewing. I was just about to cross the San Francisco Bay Bridge, and I stopped. I pulled over the car because I smelled beer brewing. And I got to find out where this smell's coming from. And it was coming from Fort Point Brewing Company, right there at that little park before you cross the Bay Bridge. And I pulled up thinking they had a tasting room, but they didn't. And so they were about ready to get rid of me. Yeah, we don't have a tasting room now. Sorry, dude, you got to go away. But I'm like, oh, I brew beer in San Diego. I'm sorry. And they're like, and some dude comes out and he goes, wait, you're Paul Segura. And I went, yes, do I know you? And they're like, yeah, no, but we know you. But cruise on in. We'll, taste you on some beers and give you a tour. They were super friendly and super kind, and we hit it off. We became friends. And then a few weeks later, when I got back, our marketing guy, our head of sales, Chad, goes, hey, man, how would you feel about doing a collab with these guys at San Francisco? And I said, I was just there.
We're serendipitous.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do this. And so a couple quick phone calls and some, email exchanges. We decided we would brew an old school oatmeal pale ale using a bunch of malts from Admiral Malting Company, which is in San Francisco. It was the first malting company to open up since Prohibition in the state of California.
Okay.
And it happens to be an old classmate of mine from Davis from the mid-'90s who owns Admiral Malting Company. It's a small world.
Of course.
In the community. So we bought a bunch of Admiral malts and made this beer together. I brewed a test batch downtown that I took up to San Francisco, and we drank it together at Fort Point. And they said, oh, this is rad. We're down. Go ahead and make big batches of this. So we brewed a boatload of this down here in San Diego.
Did they then brew their own up there in San Francisco, and they're selling their version there also?
Not yet. We think they're probably going to, but they haven't yet because of COVID. So I think they're just coming back out of hibernation from COVID. We have sent them some of this already, and but they tasted the test batch, so I think they're going to be stoked out on it. It turned out, I think, better than we had thought it would or hoped it would, and we're psyched on it. So it's out there now. I think it's going to start hitting stores this week.
And so you say oatmeal pale ale, and I don't feel like we've had an oatmeal pale ale. Can you explain what that means?
Well, it's kind of our own thing. It's kind of making our own music. There's no formal oatmeal pale ale like category or established beer guideline or anything.
Okay, I was gonna say because I took beer styles too at SDSU, and I do not remember this variation of pale ale. So, all right.
But it's kind of an old school pale ale. You look at the color; it's a little more golden. I mean, this is kind of in the light, but it has a almost copper color, kind of a dark or deep golden color. And we used a boatload of different hop varieties in this, like 6 or 7 different varieties. But it's got a nice balance. You get, that maltiness. You get the oatmeal flavor and a little bit of like caramel malt in there, but not caramelly. It's
Mm-hmm.
very dry, um, a little bit grapefruity, a little bit pine-like. So that kind of makes it old school as well. But it's got a really nice mouthfeel.
Oh, it's
From the
great.
stuff is a nice nuttiness that's there too.
I also enjoy what it says on the side of the can, and I won't read the entire thing, but the first couple lines are awesome. It says, "Everyone deserves the perfect sunset beer. You know the one. You're along the shoreline, the sun is dipping below the water, the city lights begin to twinkle, that beer." And that is this beer.
I'm glad you think it measures up. I do as well. Yeah, it is that kind of perfect sunset beer. It's really drinkable and quaffable. To me, it appeals to like everything that a beer drinker wants. It's got, a nice, interesting malt side, a nuttiness, a breadiness, and biscuit, but then it finishes dry and crisp with a lingering hop flavor and aroma. But it's also light and drinkable enough for even like anybody to really grab hold of and want a second pint of, I think.
Carl Strauss does that so well. I mean, I think of how Red Trolley was one of the first craft beers that I ever had in San Diego, and how that is such a bridging beer. And even to the Mosaic IPA, that's such a bridging beer for anybody who is trying to get into IPAs. And I think that Karl Strauss is really, really good about welcoming everyone to the party, whether you want something like super big and barrel aged like a Wreck Alley, or you want something kind of lighter like Follow the Sun.
Well, I I'm grateful for your kind words and that you said that. Not all of our beers appeal to a broad audience. Some of them, are only liked by a pretty specific segment of the market. But Karl himself, I worked for him for 7 years, used to say that beer is a social beverage. You should be able to enjoy several of them in a social setting and it should appeal to a broad audience if you can. Um, Make it social. People, don't try to exclude anybody or whatever. Some of our beers kind of tailor to a specific audience, but others like this one can be enjoyed by all sorts of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I've always liked about working for Karl Strauss is that, like you just said, people from all walks of life come together and share beer together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about.
Well, and as long as we're welcoming everybody to the party at Karl Strauss, it makes me excited to get into the next beverage we're having. But before we do that, can you give everybody an update on the operations of Karl Strauss as far as pickup to go, all of that, openings, anything like that? I know it changes day to day, but as of right now, the second week of June, what are you guys kind of looking at?
Yeah, so since COVID started, it's been a pretty fluid situation. It's changing a lot all the time, and right before the complete shutdown, even it was changing even then. They told us for a little while there that the restaurants can only be like 50% full and everything else. And then when we opened back up, they said, well, nobody can sit at the bar. And if you serve people alcohol, then it has to be food and everything else. So, we've been trying to grasp all the changes and figure out what that's going to mean for us. And as we open back up, what it's going to look like and everything. So I think we're kind of finally at a stage where It seems to be sort of stable. And I think we're on the cusp of opening back up right now. And even then, it's going to be weird for us. Like when a group of people sit down at a table and they leave, we have to get all the salt and pepper shakers and stuff out of there, bring in ones that have been washed, and I mean everything's got to be wiped down. It's got to be meticulous, and we want to be in full compliance. And I think we're finally at the point where we're ready to open back up. The brewery, the production brewery where I'm at right now, has remained, productive. We've all the brewers have shown up for work, and we continue to make beer, but it's all gone into packages, bottles and cans, for the grocery stores because they've been way up. Everybody's been staying at home and they've been drinking like a lot. So the grocery stores and all the liquor stores, any places that sell bottles and cans have been way up, but the draft has been wiped out. Mm-hmm. We're starting to see keg orders come back in now. It's starting to open back up, and we're starting to put beer in kegs once again, and that's pretty cool. I think July is going to be a big month for breweries across the board, because the weather's looking pretty good now, and the draft beers and bottled beers and canned beers are going to be pretty brisk. So it's going to be right out of the frying pan into the fire for a lot of breweries. It's going to go up like crazy, I think.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, I think we are too. We're ready to get going again, as is everybody else. It's really just. Go ahead.
Start shifting gears a little bit because I'm so excited to finally talk about this. It's something that you told me about a while ago, and you said, all right, this is on the super DL, like nobody really knows yet. I'm developing something, and this is it.
I like how you have all four of the cans there. Yeah, we're doing.
And nice big hands.
We are doing seltzer. The word is out. It's out. We've got 4 different flavors. These are all being labeled as Endless Summer. I think you remember the surfing movie, like a classic. We have an agreement with these people, with Bruce Brown, who is like the original creator of this surf movie, because we had a beer called Endless Summer Light way back in the day. I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago. And we've just stayed on good terms with Bruce Brown. And we've had the rights to the name and the imagery and everything for a long, long time, but we weren't doing anything with it. And like you said, I think it was around Thanksgiving 2019, where we said, hey, we ought to be working on a seltzer. We want you to get us some liquid. We've already got a name for it. We've already got some imagery for it, but we don't have liquid yet. And I said, okay, cool. So at the downtown brewery, we began working at this. I've got right now some Pog, which is papaya, orange, guava. And this is what it looks like. It's crystal clear, but it smells.
I snatched up the blackberry, and I'm just drinking it straight out of the can because it's the perfect kind of like on-the-go drink. Not on the go, but if you're out there and it's super, super light, it's 100 calories. It's got 1 gram of carbs. Like, it's just really light and refreshing, 5%. This is perfect to throw in your bag if, like, you're going on a hike.
I agree. And I've actually had it in my bag on hikes. And I've actually had it all sorts of other places too, like on my paddleboard and stuff like that. But yeah, when they said we want you to R&D this, they said it needs to be 100 calories, it needs to be 5% ABV, and it needs, the following flavors. And so originally I just set out to work on a neutral flavor, something which is weird, right? Because for 30 years, Karl Strauss has gone out of its way to make sure we have a lot of flavor in liquid. And so producing a liquid that has zero flavor was something completely foreign, but it was a fun task. So we produce this, this clear liquid that's got no flavor, but that's fermented with pure cane sugar and a very neutral yeast to just produce something that looks like water and tastes like water with very little flavor that we're then going to add natural flavors to. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm stoked that we're finally launching it. And the grocery stores, we put it in front of the buyers, and they're like, yes, we're going to put this in like 80 locations. And so that's kind of scary, just making sure we have enough and all of that.
I'm really impressed with the flavors, and I don't know how you got these flavors. I've had every single one of them. The key lime is perfect, especially if you're like a vodka soda lime kind of person, if you like cocktails. The raspberry is really good. The pog is good. But this black cherry, I don't know what you did to get this flavor, but it reminds me of black cherry Kool-Aid, and that's a flavor of Kool-Aid that has been missing for quite some time.
I agree, and that's not the first time I've heard that comment. Everybody says it tastes like that that Kool-Aid flavor. I agree with that, although it wasn't our intention to try to make it taste like the Kool-Aid, but I'm stoked it does because I remember that flavor too, and it brings me back when I drink the black cherry. I'm like, yeah, but it's a sniper because it has 5% alcohol.
I'd
So
never guessed it.
You get like, right? You can't taste the alcohol at all. And you get 2 or 3 deep and you're like, oh, yeah. It's
perfect for right by the pool.
My favorite is the Pog. I've spent some time in Hawaii, and the Pog thing is really popular in Hawaii. Plus, I can add just like a hint of orange juice to this, and it brings me to Hawaii. Like I feel like I'm in a tropical place when I drink it. My wife likes the key lime because she adds a little bit of ginger beer to it. And for her, it tastes like a watered down Moscow Mule. And I've heard different people say different things. Like raspberry is a big hit too. So people are using them for mixers and they're drinking them straight, just over ice in a glass. And there's a time and a place for it. I'm a beer guy, and I pride myself on being a beer guy. And it took me a little while to warm up to the whole, seltzer thing. But, we live in San Diego. It's summertime year round. And these go down. They're just crushable. They go down really easy, and you can mix them with stuff. And I've had some fun with these.
I dig it. I'm glad that you guys made one because you've made another quality product. And just saying, as long as we're talking about Kool-Aid flavors, if you ever want to do like a Purplesaurus Rex, a grape lemonade, that would be awesome.
Okay, I'm going to need you to help me with like being an informal member of our tasting panel and to help me with our quality control here.
Oh, got you. Anytime you need some quality control, I got you.
All right, cool. Glad to know. I'm gonna hit you up.
Deal. Paul, thank you so much for joining me every week, and especially this week to talk about Karl Strauss. You can pick up Karl Strauss in grocery stores, at bottle shops, at the tasting rooms for beer to go. Where else can you get Karl Strauss?
Oh God,
everywhere. I feel like
almost everywhere. I think we're pretty saturated in the market. Although the seltzer thing's fairly new. Mm-hmm. There aren't a lot of people carrying it just yet, but give it a little time.
Keep an eye out for this. It doesn't say Karl Strauss like right out. It's Endless Summer, but this is the Karl Strauss seltzer line that has come out.
And as always, we encourage people to like support their local breweries, right? So this is all brewed right here at our brewery in Pacific Beach. So if you're looking to support local people and you see Endless Summer and you think it might be some huge corporate Goliath brewery or whatever, just know that it's right here in your backyard in Pacific Beach, made by goofy guys like me.
Ah. Well, I appreciate you, Paul. Thank you so, so much. And Friday morning, you still down to call in and do beer for breakfast with Marty and I?
Absolutely. It's our thing.
Fantastic. Every Friday morning, we have beer for breakfast on 91X at 9:10. Paul will call in. We'll drink some beer. We'll be enjoying these on air. And if you have missed any of the previous beer for breakfast ABVs, you can find them at 91X.com. Alrighty, dude. Cheers to independently owned radio and craft beer in San Diego.
Cheers. I'll cheers to that any day.
91X.